name is Awesh, and this is episode 3 of Angular development series. In previous episode, we have learned about Angular and TypeScript and all related topics. In this episode, we are going to create a new project in Angular and we will be understanding all about it. So before creating any project, please check your system is configured or not. So if it is configured, then it's okay. Otherwise, please go ahead and watch my first episode and prepare your system for Angular development. Here are the things that is to be covered in this video. The very first thing, we will be creating an Angular project. We will be understanding the project and file structure of Angular project. Then we will be understanding how component is created, how it works, and what are its parts like templates and all. Then we are going to create few HTML controls like text boxes, buttons, etc. Then we will be understanding how binding works. Then we will be also understanding SOC, that is separation of concerns. Okay, so I am hoping your system is now ready to create Angular project. So let's just start creating a project. To create a new project in Angular, we are going to use Angular CLI, which we already installed in first episode. Now, if anyhow you did not install that, please go to that episode, watch that video and configure your system properly. All right, so I'm going to create a folder inside my D drive, and this folder will be containing all my projects. Okay, so I'm going to give it a name like projects. Now I'm going to enter to this particular folder. Okay, so I'm now in D drive and inside the projects folder. Now I want to create my project in projects folder. So I have to open command prompt in this particular directory. So to open command prompt in this folder, you just need to click on the address bar of the folder and then remove everything and type cmd. After typing cmd, you have to click on enter. Then it is going to open the projects folder inside the command prompt. Now just verify your system is having Angular client or not. So just type ng space version and hit enter. It is going to show you something like this. Alright. Now since Angular client is installed, you can create a new project. So to create a new project, you can use this command ng space new space project name. So instead of project name, you can place any name. So I'm just going to make it project 1. Okay, or you can say my first project. All right, so the first part is like you are using Angular CLI. The second part is you are going to create a new project, and the third part is the project name. So you have to give some meaningful name as a project name. Clear? Now we just have to press enter. Now it will be asking, would you like to add Angular routing? So this time I don't want to use Angular routing, so I will be just pressing N and hitting enter. Now the next question will be, which style sheet format would you like to use? So for this class I am going to use CSS. So just hit enter because the CSS option is already activated. So just hit enter and wait for the project to be created. Alright, so let's just move this window and see inside the D folder or inside the projects folder, there is a project, there is a folder created with the name my first project. Okay, our command prompt is working. Okay, let it install all the dependencies and everything. It will take a couple of minutes, so don't close it, let it run in background. Meanwhile, it is installing all the dependencies. We can go inside this folder and see what all things are there. So I'm going to double click it. All right, so inside this project folder, we are having so many of files and folders. Okay, one folder is still missing, that is node modules, and that folder will be created once this command prompt is completed, like it is still doing its work. Okay, so let it work. Now let's go to that folder and understand what all files are there. Okay, so let us first see there is an angular.json file. Okay, so this is a very important file of any Angular project. It basically stores the information of all the things, like what TS link file it is going to use, what main.ts file it is going to use, what is the command to run that particular project. So everything inside this angular.json file is there. If we talk about tsconfig.json file, so as you know, TS stands for TypeScript. So it is a configuration file for TypeScript. So as you all know already, like in Angular, you are going to write TypeScript files, and at the time of building, that TypeScript file is going to be compiled to JavaScript file. So all these are happening through TypeScript compiler. So straightforward, this TS config file is going to be used with TS compiler, and that TS compiler is going to check this file and produce its equivalent JavaScript file. All right. Any file in this project with having extension like spec.json, it is used for testing purpose. Okay. So Angular also provides unit testing. So any file having spec dot some extension, it is used for testing purposes only. Now we do have package.json file. So again, this is a very important file for any Angular project. And this package.json file contains the information of all the dependent packages that our project is going to use. So the dependencies could be like, it could be a system dependency, or it could be a developer dependency. So a developer dependency is like when you are writing your project, you might need some libraries that will help you completing that particular task. So that kind of dependencies are called as developer dependencies. So those developer dependencies will not be included when you build this particular project. It is going to be used on your local machine itself. And on the other hand, there is a second thing, that is system dependencies, or simply dependencies. That is actually the project dependencies on which project relies. So when you build your project, all the system dependencies are going to be involved in your project. Clear? So all the project related files are kept inside the source folder, that is SRC folder. Okay, so this SRC folder is the root folder of all your code related stuffs. Now, if you see, there is another folder that is just created, that is node modules. It is actually a root folder that contains all the dependency or all the packages. Like it is a store that contains all of the dependency that a project is going to use, right? So I'm going to open this project in my favorite IDE, that is VS Code, and let us see how we can open the project in VS Code. So there are two ways I will show you, 2 or 3 ways. So the first way is just go to the console and check the project is successfully created, right? So you must have to be in projects folder. Okay, so once the project is completed successfully, you have to go inside the project folder. So the project name was my first project. So you have to type cd, then my, and hit tab button. So after hitting this tab button, it is going to auto complete the folder name. So click enter button, and you are now inside the my first project. Now to open the code, like VS Code in this particular folder, you just have to type code space dot. Okay, so by entering this command, it is going to open up a code like VS Code. I just hit enter and see, we have this Visual Studio Code editor. Now it might ask you this kind of a screen, so you can just click on yes, I trust the authors. All right. So at first you will be seeing this kind of window. In the left hand side, you will be seeing your project related folders and files. In the right hand side, you will be seeing a get started window. You can close this also, or if you click any of the file in the left hand side, that is in the Explorer, you will be seeing its content inside, like at the right side. Okay, I will be just zooming in the text for now. So I'm opening this angular.json file in the left hand side. Okay, so as I told, this angular.json file contains the details of like what is the project name, okay, what is the root of that particular project, that is projects folder, and what is the project name, that is my first project. Now what is the like prefix of that, what is the source root, like source root is the folder where all your code resides. Then What is the index file? So index file is stored inside the source directory and then into index.html. Where will be output of this particular project stored? It will be inside the dist folder and then my first project folder. Then it also points to different files in this particular angular.json file. Alright, so if you see, there are so many things also. Like if you see the assets array, it contains the favicon that you see on the tab, on the browser tab, and then this is assets folder. Like from this folder also you can place your static files like JSON file, text file, images, or some font, etc. In the styles array, you can provide the style sheets. So by default, it is using styles.css file from src folder. So if you check your src folder, there is a style.css file. All right. Now, if you want to include your scripts, you can just use this scripts array inside angular.json file, and you can place the script file in any of the folder, and just you have to pass its path here. Okay, so in angular.json file, it contains all the project related files, all the path of the project related files, and everything. Now, if you see the package.json file, you will be seeing this kind of content here. So it contains the project name first, then its version, then scripts. So a script is the portion by which you can just use these commands. Like if you want to start the project, you have to use ng-serve. If you want to build the project, you have to use ng space build command. So many commands are there. You can use them. Then this is the dependencies. So these are the dependencies which I have selected is going to be included in the project build. Okay, like Angular animation, Angular common, compiler, core, forms, etc. So these are the dependencies, like actual dependency that is going to be built with the project. But if you see inside this dev dependencies, it is going to be discarded after, like in the process of building. Like it will not be the part of Angular project anymore after building. And these are useful to the developer itself, like Angular CLI. So you are using Angular CLI to create a project, but project has nothing to do with Angular CLI. Okay. And second example could be like you are going to write your code in TypeScript, but if you have built your Angular project, this particular library is not going to be used because TypeScript is going to be converted to JavaScript. Okay, so this is why these things are kept inside dev dependencies. If you see tsconfig.json file, it looks like this. Actually, tsconfig file is a configuration file for TypeScript, like which TypeScript version is going to be used in Angular project, what are the libraries that it is going to use, like ES2 2020 DOM, what is target, what is module, everything like related to TypeScript. So TypeScript compiler is going to read this particular tsconfig.json file and act accordingly to convert TS to JavaScript. Now, if we go ahead inside the source folder, there are three folders: app, asset, environments, and few files. So let us have a look on index.html file. So this is the index.html file, and it looks very simple, right? We do have doc type, we do have HTML tag, we do have head, then meta tag, title tag, then base, then link. So these are simple HTML file. But if you see in line number 11, there is a tag app-root. So I'm sure you have not seen this kind of tag in HTML. I mean to say, this is not a valid HTML tag. So if it is not a valid tag, then why it is here? And why it is not giving any error also? So to answer this question, this is a custom tag created by using Angular. You got my point? When you are working on any Angular project, you can create your own tags like this: app root, app home, kind of that. So this is nothing but a set of HTML tags inside it that is going to be replaced at runtime. Like once the project is running, this app root is going to be converted to some actual HTML tags. All right. So for now, if you don't get it, don't worry. You will be getting this in further videos or in this video itself. Now, if we talk about the app folder, it is going to contain all of the components. Like all the components of Angular project is going to be inside the app folder. Now, what is component? I will be answering this question in just a minute. If we talk about the assets folder, this folder is used to keep your static files. Like if you want to use custom fonts for your application, you can just store those font files here. If you want to use some JSON files, if you want to store some icon file, you can just use assets folder to store them. Then third folder, that is environments folder. It is a folder that contains environment specific configuration settings. All right. So by default, when you create a project using Angular CLI, it creates two environments. The first one is development environment, that is environment.ts. I mean to say, like this file is going to be used on the developer machine. Like if developer is using this particular, like developing this particular application, so they can just keep the local settings in this environment.ts file. And if the project is having some production configuration settings, like it is some actual URL or actual things you want to use that after building the project, you can just keep those configuration settings inside this environment.prod.ts file. Don't worry if you did not get this point, you will be just understanding in the further videos. This is favicon.ico file. This is actually going to be visible on the browser tab in the left side. If you have seen, like there is an icon, then the title of the website. Now, if you see this polyfills.ts file, this particular file is used to import some modules that are browser specific. Like if we talk about Internet Explorer, though this browser is retired now, but if you want to provide support to Internet Explorer, you would have to import a few libraries and you have to use this polyfills.ts file there. Okay, so we already know this style.css file. This is actually a global style sheet for our application. So whatever styles we create here, it is going to be applied to the entire application. Okay, this test.ts file is used for unit testing, so we are not going to work on this test.ts file, so don't worry. Now the very important file, that is main.ts file, is here. Okay, so if you are aware of any programming thing, any programming language, so there are some starting point of the programming. Like if you have worked with Java, C#, there is a main method that is actually the entry point of that program. So similar to that, Angular has its entry point. So main.ts file is the entry file that is going to be executed very first. Okay, and this main.ts file bootstraps a module. Okay, so what does it mean? Like it bootstraps a module. So bootstrapping is a process to initialize the application in the browser. Okay, suppose you want to open some specific page when someone browse your website, so you would have to provide a module for that particular page, and that module is going to be bootstrapped from the main.ts file by default. So in this case, if you see in line number 11, it is bootstrapping app module, right? So app module is the main module that is going to be initialized at the very first. I mean to say, it is the entry point module. So from this module, program is going to enter to your application, right? So what is app module file then? All right, so let us see in the app folder now, and there is an app.module.ts file. So if you browse this file, it will look like this. It is a class, export class app module, that is annotated with @ng module decorator. So anything in Angular that is starting with @ symbol, it is going to be a decorator. So this is ng module decorator. So ng module decorator is used to create an app module, or simply a module for your Angular application. So whenever you are going to create any module using ng module decorator, you have to provide few configurations to it. For example, declarations. So declaration is an array that is actually going to contain all the components that are associated with this module. So for now, we only have a single component. So that component is app component. If you have multiple components, you can just include them in this particular declarations array. Okay, if you don't know components, don't worry, I will be explaining in further few minutes. This imports array, this is also a part of ng module decorator. This is actually a array that is actually going to import modules for this particular module. Like every module has some actions to perform. So for example, browser module is here. So browser, we are importing all the tasks that is written inside browser module inside our app module. So everything, it is kind of inheritance, if you can say in simple words. It is going to inheritance the working of browser module inside the app module. Though it is not completely inheritance, it is just for you to understand. Now this providers array. So inside Angular, we deal with multiple services and all. So if we are going to use any service that is to provide data, we can just use them inside this providers array. In simple words, providers are used to set up services, like to use the services inside this particular module. And this bootstrap array. So this bootstrap array actually shows what will be the component that will be initialized at the very first time. So in this case, it is app component that is going to be the first component, or in simple words, it is going to be the first page for that particular website. Clear? You can just comment if you have any doubts. I will try to explain there, or if it required, I will just create another video on that. All right. So there could be a question like, what is module then? So to answer this question, we can think of a project is a huge collection, you can say. Like project is a huge problem, and you are breaking that particular problem in pieces. So that particular piece is going to be the module for that particular project. So your project is a collection of modules, right? And a module is a collection of components, right? So inside a project there could be multiple modules, and then inside a single module there could be multiple components, services, or anything like that. A module can import any other module's functionality, or it can export its own functionality to some other modules also, right? So with this definition, let us just move to the component. So as you know, we do have this app component that is going to be opened at the very first time. So if you see in the app folder, there is a app component.ts file. So this is the file that is the component file for that project. And if you see, it is a simple class, right? Like export class app component. So this app component is the main component that is going to be rendered at the very first time. And if you see a little bit up, there is a @component decorator. So you remember I told, like when there is any symbol, you can just think of that it is a decorator. So add component is a decorator. So whenever you want to create any component, you can just use @component decorator. Okay, so I will be digging down in this particular topic, but let us first run this particular project and see how it looks like. Okay, so to run this project, just go to the command prompt window that is already open here, and type a command that is ng space serve. It will take a couple of seconds. Okay, so if you see, it is saying compiled successfully. All right, so if it is compiled, how can we see that project? So if you just scroll a bit up, you can see this particular URL. Open your browser on http://localhost:4200. So this is the default address on which you can just browse your project. So you can just copy it, all right, and go to your browser and paste it. Hit enter. Now see, your project is ready. All right, so the title of the project is my first project. This black icon on the tab is the favicon. All right, this area is the web page content, and this is coming from the app component, right? So this is how the project looks like. Okay, great. Like we have created our first project and it is successfully running. So what is component then? All right. So a component is a basic building block of Angular project. So whatever screens you see in your website, it is made of a few components. Okay, one or more components are comprises a single web page. So components can be as simple as we can reuse them at some other places. Like on components, you can specify your logic or what view you want to give them to be displayed on the browser. So in simple words, for Angular project, like components are a basic building things. All right. So to deep down, we can just do one exercise. Let me first delete these 4 files here. This app component.css file, this app component.html file, this app component.spec.ts file, then the last file is app.component.ts file. Let us first delete this. So by deleting this, there could be some errors in our app module.ts file. There could be some errors. So let us just take care of them also. This bootstrapper is also giving error, so let's just remove that from there also. Okay, save it. Let us see if we do have any other problems also. Yeah, we do have this, like we have to remove this line from index.html also. Okay, I just removed it and saved it. Now let's see, our project is still successfully compiled. Okay, so one beauty of this Angular project is, like when you are running your project and you are changing any file in your project, it is going to be automatically compiled. So if you want to see, let me just do one thing. I will be just uh, restarting the screen and opening the command prompt and the uh, Visual Studio Code side by side. Okay. Now I'm just going to make some changes in inside app.module.cs file, ts file. All right. So I'm just removing this few lines, like empty lines from this file, and saving it. See, it has automatically compiled that. If I remove some comma and make it invalid, see, it is giving us errors like bootstrap this, like there are so many errors. Okay, so you see, like this is a feature that even if you are modifying any file in the project, it is going to recompile that automatically. You don't have to compile it again by yourself. All right, so I'm just reverting the changes whatever I have given and saving that. Now it will be compiled successfully. Okay, so now I'm going to just maximize the VS Code, magnify it, and let us create our first component. Okay, to create a component, like you have to create your components inside the app folder. So right click on app folder, create on a new file, and then you have to provide a file name. So since you are going to create a component for your Angular application, there are some naming system also, like you have to give it a valid names. To create a component, you have to first type the component name in lowercase. So let's suppose I want to create my component by name my component. Okay, so I will be just running my, then hyphen my uh, first component. Okay, the name of that particular component will be my first component. So my first will be like this, then dot component. All right, then dot ts. Okay, so my first dot component dot ts, this is a valid component name. So you have to follow this kind of naming convention, and then just hit enter to create this file. All right, now you have to use the, like you have to create a class for that component, and the component name will be my first component, right? So let's just create a class, right, and then give it a name like my. So in the class name, the first letter of any word will be capital, and the following words will be characters will be in lowercase, and instead of hyphens or anything, you can just have to attach them. So my first component, so the class name will be my first component, and then we just have to do it like this. Great, you are just creating a class. Now as I stated earlier, if you want to create your component, you have to use @component decorator, right? So you have to use @component, right, decorator, that is available inside the Angular core, right? So you have to first import Angular core in your project. So how you can make import? So you have to write import in curly braces, write component from, in single quotes, @Angular core, and and there could be a semicolon also, right? So this is going to import the component decorator from Angular core, and this Angular core is a directory inside the ng, or say inside the node modules folder. So this node modules folder contains all the node package manager, like packages from whatever we are installing using npm. It is going to be stored inside this node_modules folder, right? So now we have successfully imported this component in our first component. Let us just use that. So we have to use it like @component, right? And then a pair of parentheses, okay? And then inside the pair of parentheses, you have to have some curly braces, a pair of curly braces, right? So remember this thing. Inside these curly braces, you have to provide template. So as I stated earlier, this component is going to be rendered on the browser. So what will be rendered there? So any HTML you are going to provide as a template is going to be rendered on the browser. So in this particular template property, we are going to create our HTML, and then it also have style, right? Styles. So in HTML, if you want to make the user interface beautiful, you have to use some styles, right? Like CSS. So say, as the name suggests, it is styles. It is a plural, so it is an array. So you have to specify it in a square brackets. So inside a square bracket, you have to write your style sheet, right? And then I think that's all for this. Now let us design our template first. Like my first components template. So inside template, I just want to print something in the h1 tag. So I just want to print it like this is my first component, right? And then close of this h1. Now save it, and we have to reference this particular component inside our app module, that is the main module. You know, you understand, like we have to bootstrap this, because this is going to be the first or the initial component, right? So we have to go to the app module file, and then inside the bootstrap we have to provide that my first component. So before going to use that my first component here in app module file, we have to first import that component in this file. So to import any component inside module file, you have to write import, then my first component from, it is available inside app, or you can just write /app/my first component, right? So, and after that, like after my first component, you have to just put a / and include my first component. Okay, you don't need to do that, right? So this is done, but you have specified the correct address, but it is still showing you error. Okay, so let us just first import this inside our bootstrap. So just copy it and provide it as a bootstrap component, also as a declaration. It will be giving some errors. So this error is related to value at position 0 in the ng declaration app is not a reference value, could not be determined statically. So this error is because we have not exported this class here. So we have to use export and then save it. And now if you see, it must be resolved. Okay, I have this / here. All right. So now it is resolved and it is properly working. So the point I wanted to explain is you have to write this export keyword before the class name, like export class, then the class name. All right. So let us just save app module.ts file, and let us just check our command prompt if it is successfully compiled or not. Yeah, it is compiled. Now let us open our browser. That browser is also automatically refreshed. Okay, but we are not seeing anything. Our project is successfully compiled, but we are not seeing any output on the web page. Okay, I know that. So let us see why it is happening. If you go to index.html file, if you see there is nothing on this particular page, so you have to provide some tags to it, right? You have to create some custom tag for that component so that that custom tag could be used on index.html file. So to create that custom tag or custom element, you have to again go to my first component, and then inside this decorator there is a selector property. So you have to use a selector property, and you have to provide a custom tag name. All right, so as per the naming convention, the tag name or the custom tag name should start with app and then hyphen, right? So app hyphen is as per the rule, and then we have to provide the component name. So I can just write my first like this. Now I'm just going to copy this app hyphen my first, copy, and save this file also. Don't forget to save any file, because if you don't save the file, you won't be seeing any output to that. Now after copying this name, just go to index.html file, and inside this angular bracket paste that. Okay, and close the angular bracket. It will auto complete, like it will be kind of tag. Okay, so now save this file, and once again go to the browser and see if you see anything. Yeah, this is my first component. Wow, it worked, right? So there are a few important things, like if you are going to create a component, you have to first provide its template, right? You have to first provide a template, and this template is going to be inside the string. All right, so whatever you will write here, it is going to be rendered on the browser. The second thing is you have to provide styles. If it is optional, like you can or cannot provide this, like it is optional, it is up to you. But if you want to create any custom tag for that component, then you have to use selector property, and to provide a name, you have to use app hyphen then the component name. All right, so this is all about component, and let us see some elements, like some custom HTML like buttons and radio buttons, etc. Okay, so let me just go ahead and create a button. So to create a button in HTML, you just have to write button, then close the angular bracket, and then type my button or some caption to it, then close the button tag. Okay, save it. After saving, go to the browser and see there is a button that is named as my button, right? So you can create any of the HTML component here using this. So let me just create one checkbox also. Checkbox, and close the checkbox, and provide a caption to it. Maybe I like Angular programming, kind of that. Oh, sorry, I just got confused. It is not checkbox, it is input. Okay, so input type is equals to checkbox, right? And then some text to it, like I like Angular, and save it. Go to the browser and see there will be a checkbox. So similar to that, you can create so many HTML elements. All right. So let's pause here, and the rest of the topics I will create another video and try to explain there, because this video is getting too lengthy, right? So till then, thank you so much for watching this video, and let's meet in the next video. Thank you.